David loved his wife Mary with a ferocity that scared most people. She was the sun, and he, a mere planet revolving around her warmth. Their love story was the kind bards sang about, full of laughter, whispered secrets, and the promise of forever. Then came the twins, beautiful girls with their mother's eyes and his unruly hair, a perfect blend of their love. They named them Amal and Mira, two halves of a whole, their laughter echoing like wind chimes in their small happy home. Then, the unthinkable happened. Mary, their light, was snuffed out by a drunk driver one rainy Tuesday evening. The world, as David knew it, shattered, leaving him with a gaping hole in his chest and two tiny humans who needed him more than he could bear. Grief hit him like a physical blow, threatening to drown him in its depths. He would wake up in the middle of the night, phantom memories of Mary's laughter echoing in his ears, only to find emptiness beside him. His days became a blur of feeding, changing, and soothing, all the while battling the crushing weight of his grief. He saw Mary in every corner of their house, heard her voice in the rustling leaves outside the window. The girls, too young to comprehend death, would ask for their mother, their innocent questions like salt on a bleeding wound. David clung to them, their tiny hands in his, drawing strength from the love he felt for his daughters. He knew he had to be strong. For them, for Mary, he had to find a way to navigate this new, terrifying world, where shadows seemed longer and laughter sounded painful. The early years were a blur. David, lost in his grief, navigated parenthood with the help of his kind elderly neighbor, Mrs. Peterson. She became a surrogate grandmother to the twins, her presence a soothing balm on their raw wounds. As the girls grew, their personalities began to take shape. Amal, the elder by a mere 10 minutes, was the quiet observer, her nose always buried in a book. She had her mother's thoughtful eyes, a depth that belied her age. Mira, on the other hand, was a whirlwind of energy, a mischievous glint in her eyes just like her father's. She filled the silence left by their mother with her infectious laughter and boundless energy. Despite their contrasting personalities, Amal and Mira shared a bond that was palpable. They were two halves of a whole, always there for each other, their connection a silent language only they understood. David cherished this bond, finding solace in their love for each other. Yet, as the years passed, a new fear began to creep into David's heart. He saw the girls, especially sensitive Amal, withdraw into themselves. He felt their pain, their unspoken grief, and it mirrored his own. He knew he couldn't be both mother and father to them. They needed a woman's touch, a mother's love. The thought terrified him, but he knew he had to try. For them, he had to bring some semblance of normalcy back into their lives. He met Susan at a local support group for grieving spouses. She was elegant, with a warm smile and kind eyes that reminded him of better days. Susan had lost her husband a year ago, leaving her with a void she tried to fill. They found solace in their shared grief, a bond forged in the crucible of loss. David introduced Susan to the girls cautiously, his heart pounding with a mixture of hope and fear. Amal, true to her nature, was reserved, her eyes studying Susan with an unnerving intensity. Mira, however, was instantly smitten, drawn to Susan's warm smile and gentle touch. They started dating cautiously at first, then with a growing sense of purpose. Susan seemed to slip effortlessly into their lives, her presence a soothing balm on their wounded souls. A year later, they were married in a small ceremony, the girls by their side, a hesitant smile on Amal's face, and pure joy radiating from Mira. For a while, life seemed to settle into a new normal. Laughter returned to their home, replacing the oppressive silence that had become their constant companion. David, blinded by his own need for healing, for a semblance of the family he had lost, missed the subtle signs, the red flags that would come to haunt his dreams. He was so focused on filling the void left by Mary that he failed to see the darkness lurking beneath Susan's charming facade. He failed to see the way her smiles never quite reached her eyes when she looked at Amal, the subtle tightening of her jaw when the girls mentioned their mother. The change in Susan was gradual, like a slow poison seeping into their lives. The once warm smiles became strained, her voice took on a sharper edge, and her patience with the girls, especially Amal, wore thin. She started imposing strict rules, her need for control suffocating the life out of their once happy home. David, initially oblivious, started noticing the shift. He saw the fear in Amal's eyes, the way she flinched at Susan's touch. He heard the whispered arguments late at night, the muffled sobs coming from Amal's room. When he confronted Susan, she would deny it, brushing off his concerns as being oversensitive or imagining things. He wanted to believe her. He clung to the memory of the woman he had fallen in love with, the woman who had brought laughter back into their lives. But the truth was becoming increasingly difficult to ignore. Susan had changed, and in her place was a stranger, someone cold and calculating, someone who saw the girls as an obstacle, a constant reminder of a life she could never have. The abuse was never physical, at least not in the beginning. It was a slow, insidious erosion of their spirits, a constant barrage of insults and belittling remarks disguised as constructive criticism. Susan targeted Amal, the quieter, more introspective twin. She criticized her every move, from her appearance to her grades, chipping away at her already fragile self-esteem.